basically, just going over definitions, a few things we kind of already knew. Just that step 2 has to be new framework definitions, which is saying specifically. I was thinking of over the past couple of days is like things which affect a thought texture, but that's too vague. You have to imagine it directly as the things which cause a thought texture. You have to understand it in the instrument sense or the flavor sense or the train sense, where it is the rails, it is the ingredients, it is the music coming from the instrument, and you need a determinist lens on it. You need to directly understand that there is no individual things within the system. There are only the arbitrary labels over the individual pieces which form the thought textures and or psychic textures. And so essentially, with that realization inherently, you now have you have the maximum efficiency principle or divine selfishness, which says I care about nothing, I care about no truth, I only care about myself and experiencing the best thought texture. And from this position, you then say, okay, I now have frameworks, which is to say I understand that there are things outside of my control which form my thoughts, and I interact with them. I am aware of them, right? And those are the individual frameworks with the new definition. They are, I think, the ingredients of the thought textures. And from this understanding, which directly results from the maximum efficiency principle, you now get XZAAYZYX. And the understanding is that XZAAYZYX is an arbitrary label on a framework. XZAAYZYX is the original, the naive thought, which says I am me, right? And then that is obliterated by AZYX, which says you is only the amalgamation of the individual frameworks, the individual pieces which make you up. And the frameworks make up the thought texture, which is what you think of as yourself, right? And so essentially, from this position, now directly you can say, if I am AZYX, if I am frameworks, that means, therefore, that I am XZAAYZYX, or that I am the collection of all existing frameworks. I was getting confused with all possible frameworks over the last couple of days. That's getting into a religious perspective. You're getting into a metaphysical perspective. You're claiming individual truths. You don't do that. You instead say, I am all existing frameworks. That's the logical conclusion of the maximum efficiency principle. It keeps all of the cohesion and has none of the truth claims, right? And so you're just saying, I am everything which exists. Well, one says, I am every possible framework, right? Which says, literally, I am every possible thing. And the other one just says, I am everything that exists. And everything that exists is probably every possible thing. There's like a 99% chance that is what it is. But you're not saying that. You're not saying I'm every possible thing because you don't know if every possible thing exists because you're just a human being. You're just saying that you are everything which is real. Not everything which could be real, but just everything which is. You're only making a factual claim. I am every possible framework because there's no separation between me and other frameworks because I don't exist fundamentally. I am only a collection of frameworks which make up the thought texture which I call myself. And with this understanding, you become XZAAYZYX, or you become the will to taste, which is the fundamental process. This is the Optimus Prime framework, and all the frameworks like that, which are basically just saying you are the maximization of frameworks. You are not you. You are only the optimization of the individual frameworks to taste the best thought textures. And because of this conclusion, you realize that you are every other being, and your goal then switches from divine selfishness to like the religious perspective almost, but like I said, obviously it only forms the maximum efficiency principle. You have to keep that in mind. But yeah, and then you get to XZAAYZYX, and XZAAYZYX is just the conclusion that you are all of the frameworks. Right? It's not religious, it's not unscientific, it's not anything like that. You're not making any truth claims. You're just saying, I am everything which exists because there is no me, therefore I have to be everything else, right? And that is the state in which it's like that's the state where you're dissolving every individual thing into frameworks. You're saying, okay, that this conversation I'm having right now, these words coming out of my mouth, these are all frameworks, and what a framework is just the way that affects the thought texture. So in this process of conversion, I'm inherently understanding what everything is because I'm coming from the objective perspective, and the objective perspective is not the perspective of like some formed God. It's not some words going through my head. It's the actual perspective of like if I'm coming from the place of saying that there is, basically, it's the rediscovery of the awareness thing that Buddhists talk about, where they're saying there is no self, there is no me, there is only the awareness of these things. You're rediscovering that concept through the understanding that you are AZYX, or that you are only the like thing which experiences frameworks. When you understand that, when you're saying that you are all frameworks, therefore, like you are only the frameworks you're experiencing right now, that is you. You are XZAAYZYX, which is the energy which runs down the path, right? Then you're saying that you are the active optimization of frameworks. Jacques ready to call, so we should probably wrap it up there, but we should talk about this later after the call because we need to get this on camera, but that's the general idea. That's generally the things that we talked about that we missed on the last recording, so now they're down.
In like a primal mode of like thought and just everything, and it was very pleasurable and very productive, you know?
Yeah.
And not to mention it teaches you how to, to an extent actually defend yourself in a fight. And, in this world, that's probably something we should very much know how to do. So like next time we actually are in a real fight, we actually know exactly what we're doing.
Also, it gives you points on the, as far as like once you are famous, it gives you points on the masculinity scale as far as people who care about things like that. Like Andrew Tate, right? One of the reasons he got famous is because he's a world champion kickboxer, and that gives him the lens of like, I'm masculine, I can kick your ass. That's why my arguments are better, and we will also be
Yeah,
able to
I was
play that
talking
way.
to. That's another thing. I've people have mentioned that, especially Ethan. When I talked to him about it, he was like, if you want like any sort of like degrees are good. He was talking about that, but kind of for degrees. Like if you want to be a philosopher, you should get like a degree just so you have like a level of what's it, rapport. Yeah.
Well, I think the way that you earn that rapport is you debate a couple of PhD philosophers and you rip their asshole about 40 meters in diameter, and then after that, people be like, "Oh, okay, well maybe he doesn't need a PhD." That's my plan.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've really thought a lot about being. I don't know if I talked to you guys especially about it, but just being like an artist or a musician. I don't know. When I was psychotic the first time, I came to the conclusion that art was like the purest form of human expression. I don't know if that's true anymore because I don't really believe anything. But
Well, I would say
I
that
think
that
that
I was gonna say that I think that it's not exactly that art is the purest form of human expression, but that like every form of human expression ideally should be art. Like even when you're doing your job at Walmart, like it should be carried out. It's what the Taoists talk about when like there's the butcher with the knife, who like has never sharpened his knife and yet he can like cut the cow apart in like 1 millisecond, does it better than anyone else in all the lands because he enjoys his work, he focuses on it, and every moment of his work, he's not thinking about his life at home, he's not thinking about escaping his job, he's focused only on the act of working. And it's like all human life is art directly. All experience is art. It is God trying to experience the best thought texture, reaching outwards. And it's like that is what art is. That's what humans are doing when they reach outwards towards art. So it's like art is
into
the human
my
experience.
yeah, when
Which
I
is,
click into my like superpowers, that's how I feel. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not superhuman right now, but I might be next Thursday. Um,
It's right now. It's so interesting because anytime that I'm not efficient, I've been booted out like once or twice the last couple of days, but I'm able to get back through pure logic, through pure rationality. Only through the maximum efficiency principle, I'm capable of achieving godhood now, which is like that's an insane ability, new to me.
yeah, I looked at the calendar like uh and I was like, wow, it's been a month. And I like looked at like my texts and shit, and I was like, it's been a month since I said all that shit. What the fuck have I done in a month? Like I was supposed to have read like 3 books a week or something, and I've only read 1 book in like 2 months, and I'm like, um, you know.
There,
But that's like,
there's
Actually,
one.
have you noticed the
Go ahead.
does the maximum efficiency principle help with that outside of just
It
mental
absolutely
frameworks, I guess?
no. Mark my words. It fucking bodies it. It's the number one conclusion. That where the lull you guys are talking about. I was talking to my mother, so I didn't hear all of it, but I heard the end, and I am 99% sure I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the lull that I've been in for the past 9 months, and it's what I talk. And here's this is gonna be a very roundabout way of saying, and I can say it in like 30 different ways. So let me give it a few tries. But here's the first one that comes to mind whenever I think about that. The number one thing which conquers that malaise, which stops you from doing anything, is and now, but here's basically what I'm gonna say. Here's the gay version of what I'm saying. You need to be in the present moment, and obviously that's incredibly homosexual. Doesn't help in any real capacity. Here's what that actually means practically. Whenever you are like experiencing those things, whenever you are going through those things, whenever you aren't capable of reading because you can't even find the willpower to do it, what that's inherently stemming from, what that's coming from, is your lack of desire to do that. And what I mean by that is that when you're good, when you're efficient, when you're in God mode, you're not making yourself read books. You're not making yourself do things. When you're in God mode, you are enjoying doing all those things, and you're only doing those things because you enjoy them. So you need to focus on the epistemic problem. You need to focus on the root. You need to focus on the maximum efficiency principle. So in other words, you need to get to a place where you logically want to read those things, you're wanting to interact with those things because you understand that those things will give you the best thought texture. And that's the only way. Like, in other words, you can't make yourself get a job. You can't make yourself read books. It'll never work. It'll always be miserable and it'll just be a waste of fucking time. And what you'll do instead is you'll spend a month procrastinating and not doing anything. What you need to do is you need to focus on the root of why you're not doing those things, why you don't feel like you're going to enjoy doing those things, why you don't feel like those things are an adequate exchange of your time. And once you address that problem, then those things will become enjoyable again. Do you see what I'm saying?
and it's like, I, mm, I kind of do that to an extent, but yeah, I don't know. For me, it's like a momentum thing of it's like when I work out, it's very pleasurable and it makes me feel good. And I don't know. It's like for me, it's like when I keep a routine, it creates a positive feedback loop of everything. Like everything I do throughout the day has a certain effect on my mind, and it reinforces a certain like feeling. And if I do the same thing over a period of days, it like I don't have to explain what I mean. But yeah. I got you. I got you. I'll take that into consideration. I kind of already do that, but in a different way. Yeah.
Um, yeah, me
I, I,
personally, go ahead. What was it?
you go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I may have ADHD. It's very likely I have ADHD. But so I may be different in this capacity. Maybe this is completely meaningless to most people. Most people do say the same thing, that a schedule really helps them, and I think that's why most people do well in school. Me personally, I found that anytime I try to make myself stick to a schedule, which I've really tried to do over the past year, it ends up destroying my progress, and I will literally get more done if I completely abandon the project and instead just decide I'm going to do what I want for the next like month. What'll happen is I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna play video games, so that's what I want to do. And after like 10 hours of playing video games, I'm like, this shit fucking sucks. I want to read a book. And I'll get more out of not having a schedule and only what I'm doing in the present moment. And if I'm doing something like scrolling through Instagram, or just like watching useless YouTube videos, then what I'll do is while I'm doing that thing, I will start now what I start doing is I'll run straight back to maximum efficiency principle, and I'll literally just basically ask this thing that I'm doing right now as I'm scrolling through Instagram, like well, okay, we're kind of need to just gonna address the philosophy. Well, we should probably get done talking about the basic things like MMA and sleep schedule first. But what it breaks down to is you break out of the like instant pleasure receptors of just doing what you want in the moment, and you understand things on a wider scale. And you want to get done the thing that will be best for you, like truly, like the things that will actually produce the best thought textures. And like scrolling through
Yeah.
Instagram becomes miserable, and it no longer becomes fun
Yeah,
because
no,
like
what gets me, yeah, scrolling through Instagram, that's what happened. It's like I was before when I had no phone, I was insanely productive. And it was like because I had no instant gratification when I didn't have a phone. And it's like I barely had when I had like barely any food and like no phone, when everything was hard to do, I was insanely productive because I just like if I wanted food, I had to cook. And it like got me in this like phase of just like I don't know, insane productivity. Kind of like how danger made me like same thing with danger, but um yeah, what happens to me is the more time I spend on like Instagram, I notice that like my thoughts become less beautiful.
yeah.
Like it I mean I'm tripping over my words, but yeah, I agree. I agree. I just thought it was cool that like I can notice from day to day my mind becoming cloudy or my mind fixating on certain thoughts rather than like I don't know.
Yeah,
Rather than like
yeah.
constantly processing like cool ideas and artistic ideas, it's just
So
like
I would call this the genius framework, and it's whenever I'm open. And the genius framework is whenever I'm enjoying the process of thinking. I'm not thinking about individual things. And what the Instagram does to your brain is it makes it where you actually start focusing on each individual thought as it passes by. So you're not enjoying the process of thinking. You're caught up on each individual thought, and it's like tearing your thought process in different ways that are uncomfortable because you're actually associating with those thoughts. And the big thing about Instagram is the fact that typically whenever you're scrolling through Instagram, you're not thinking about scrolling through Instagram. Or if you are thinking or if you are thinking about it, you're only thinking, I'm gonna get out.
done.
What is it?
No, I can hear you again. My bad.
Oh, you're
Keep
all good.
going.
I was just gonna say that that when you're scrolling through Instagram, you're typically not thinking, or you're only thinking, oh, I'm gonna get off in 5 minutes, and then an hour goes by, and you're like, oh man, I didn't get off in 5 minutes, like a fucking retard. And like why this happens, and what I do to fix it. Now, what I used to do is I just delete Instagram, and I'm deleting it for a week. I can't. Like it's taking too much of my time. I'm just gonna delete it for a week, and then I'll come back to it after a week and start using it again. But what I do now is I say, okay, if I'm going to use this, the whole time I'm using it, I need to be thinking about I need to be actively processing and understanding why this is the best spending of my time. So I can use it. I'm allowed to use Instagram, and every time I'm scrolling through Instagram, now I'm forcing myself. There's like a framework trap that I've set up where every single time, every second that I'm scrolling through Instagram, I have to be focused on why this is the most efficient spending of my time. And when I do that, Instagram becomes much less fun and it becomes a drag. And the other things become more fun. But if I'm not focused on that, if I'm not focused on the maximum efficiency principle, then I can just waste like an hour on Instagram, like procrastinating, because then I'm thinking about, oh, I need to watch the quantum physics video. Oh, I need to meditate. Oh, I need to go on the back porch and meditate. And then guess what I do? I spend an hour scrolling through Instagram thinking I'll get off in 5 minutes, because what I'm really doing is I'm procrastinating because I don't want to actually spend any effort doing anything. But what I need to do is I need to figure out why it's taking effort to meditate and not taking effort to scroll through Instagram, when in reality it should logically be the opposite. I should be feeling the weight of scrolling through Instagram, the weight of it draining my fucking brain power, and I should be feeling the positive impacts of meditating and actually thinking about
Yeah,
my thoughts. And go ahead.
that's exactly as I've noticed that I can feel myself like depleting when I look at my phone.
Yeah.
Especially and then meditating is very, I don't know what happened to me, but something over the last year snapped in my brain, and now meditating is just pleasurable to me. Or it's just I don't get restless anymore at all. It's just pleasant. I don't know what it was, one of the mental breakdowns, but it's just I don't know. It's really cool, really, really cool, because in the last year or two, my brain has been completely rewired. Everything is different. I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah. Would you say it feels more like being a child again?
It when I was psychotic, yes. Now it's
It's just richer.
yeah, it's just I mean, right now I feel mundane. Right now I don't feel particularly intelligent, or I'm not coming up with anything particularly beautiful. I'm just I don't feel depressed anymore. My resting state is just neutral now, rather than constant suffering. So
You called us. You got out of the psych ward and you called us. Do you remember this? The day after I created the story, the mythology. Do you remember us talking about this? The computer and the people, the person in the other galaxy, and the people watching, the scientists watching after they found the equation which described reality. Do you remember this? Do you remember the story?
briefly. No, I remember the one where he picks up the thing and he sees every possible thing.
Okay, that's the orb. But the one I'm talking about right now is here's how it goes. Scientists on Earth, they find the omni-life equation, right? And the omni-life equation holds it essentially is the equation at the base of reality. It's the equation, and from this equation stems not only our reality, but our reality is only one possible outcome of this equation. And every other possible reality which could happen is also a possible outcome of this equation. And when we run this equation through a computer, this computer is going to simulate every possible reality. So this computer is now essentially going to take the role of God. And humanity, they begin to watch this simulation unfold so that they can gain enlightenment. They don't really know that at the time. They just think they're going to try and gain as much knowledge as possible by watching these alternative realities unfold, to use it within their own reality. In this process, obviously, they discover enlightenment. Some of the things they find along the way, for instance, is one guy, and this guy, he basically he holds my entire philosophy. This guy, he's a Sithriel, right? He holds my entire philosophy, and this society which created the computer, which just simulates all these realities, they're going to see him, right? Imagine they put on VR goggles, or maybe they get transmitted directly into the experience, or they watch it on a TV, however you imagine the medium. I don't really care. You imagine that they're looking in on him, he's living out his reality, and that basically through this man explaining my religion to his society, which is basically going to be an alien society, it's going to be like the version of us combined into one person. So this one person in an alien society is going to explain our religion to his society. He's going to make his philosophy and his religion, he's going to try and get it out to the people, which is exactly what we're doing, right? And so essentially this guy is going to be a substitute for us, and he's going to be in another dimension, and the people who have created the simulation, which simulates all realities, are going to watch him, and they're going to watch him and his philosophy unfold, and they're going to learn in their reality, and they're going to implement it in their reality, and it's going to, they're going to explore other realities along the way, learn other things before they get to this man, but they're eventually going to get to him, and that'll be the end. And so basically my entire philosophy and all my vocabulary will be explained by this guy, and the rest of my philosophy about the nature of God and the nature of every reality and the nature of us being the equation, or everything fundamentally, right? Everything at the source, or the thing which stretches out into all things, that's all going to be explained in the story, which takes place in a sci-fi setting, right? And I figured out the story and I finished the story the day before you got out of the psych ward. I don't know if it was the first, second, or third time, but it was a couple months back. And then you were actually, I swear to God, I hope this have it on recording. You were kind of explaining the basic premises to me before I explained it to you. It was an insane synchronicity. You got out of the psych ward the day before it happened. It was insane. Well, also, you've just gotten out of the psych ward the day before I created the new system, or the new framework, which has just completely concluded the entire framework series. I'm done with frameworks. I completed them the day before we called just a couple weeks ago. So to me, I'll never believe in synchronicities because I don't ever believe in anything. But
I want to talk about.
What,
Keep going.
I
I'm
was just
just
gonna say
pressed
that.
because my phone did. What'd you say?
Oh, what percentage is your phone at?
Oh, it's at like 17, but at like 13, it sometimes just turns off because of the shitty phone.
Fuck.
But
Damn.
But I just wanted to talk about synchronicities real quick. So when I was homeless, I was like, I got drugged with like PCP, I think. So I don't know if I was psychotic or if I was tripping. But I was like just walking down the street and I would just talk to like strangers. And I was just like, because when I'm psychotic, I have like no fear of anything. I have no social anxiety, I have no insecurity. So I just like I'm just in God mode, and it's like everyone's like an NPC, and I'm just in like creative mode, and I just talk to everyone and do whatever I want. So like, but I had like the strangest interactions. Like this old like Hispanic grandma just started talking to me, and she like just described like she basically described me to myself, and I was like, she was like, yeah, I heard about this boy that came from like really far away with a friend, and then his friend abandoned him, and he had long hair, and he was riding the bus, and I was like, how do you know that? I don't know. It was like weird, like psychedelic like magic shit happens, especially in the psych wards too. Like the weird ass shit happens. Like I don't know, it's just really weird synchronicities. But I don't know if it's mental illness or synchronicities because you never know, you know?
So what I would say in the solution to that, because to me it's the same thing. Where so like for instance, here's the perfect example. The other day, me and my siblings were all sitting on the trampoline, and the light. There was a light across the street. It turns on every night, and this time it turned on white. And we just all happened to look at it. And I asked the question, is that normally white or did they replace the bulb? And then my sister said, I think they replaced the bulb. You're right, that's weird. And then as while we were saying that, as we were watching it, it changed from white to orange. And I was like, I've never seen that before. That has never happened before. That is crazy. What are the odds of that? That must have been a synchronicity. And then my father walks over and asks him about it. He was like, yeah, it's probably just it warming up. And I was like, yeah, obviously that's what it was. Of course it wasn't a synchronicity. And I feel like there are a lot of synchronicities which fall into that category. However, I based on my life experiences, it does not make sense from a rational perspective that everything I've experienced, every synchronicity that I've experienced was just um was just that was just, or I suppose I should say at least it is very statistically unlikely. Now, whenever you take into consideration, like whenever you start going to quantum physics and you say, okay, well, every possible reality exists, and there are realities in which certain synchronicities are going to happen to you that are going to seem, you know what I mean, that are going to seem targeted at you, but that's only actually because that reality has to exist in the amalgamation of all the other realities, right? And that very well may be true. But what I have to say is that the way that you target this and the way that you use this is you say, I only believe in synchronicities as far as they can get shit done, right? You just go revert back to the maximum efficiency principle. So I don't believe in synchronicities. However, in any case in which I could possibly gain my goals by believing in synchronicities, like things like manifestation or stuff like that, right? I'm going to believe in it. So like from now on, like if I believe like for instance about winning the UFC belt, from now on I'm going to believe that I'm going to win the UFC belt. Even though I don't actually fundamentally believe that, I believe it from the maximum efficiency principle, which is just as good. I feel it. I feel in my stomach. I believe it. I believe I'm going to take the belt. I believe I'm going to change society. But I only believe those from a rational level of understanding that not only cognitively, because it's been proven, right? Your confidence levels, your idea of how you're going to get it done, manifestation, visualization, these things, just from a perfectly like a psychological perspective, make you more likely to get things done because you're more like I don't know how to explain it other than when two people are racing and one of them thinks they're going to lose and the other one thinks they're going to
I
win.
know what you're saying.
Well, we should probably continue talking about what we were talking about. Which was, yeah. Do you have any questions about it? Do you understand it? Like, are you using it day to day? If not, like, what are you running into?
Um, yeah, I guess it's just I guess so let's say I'm at work and I'm not feeling it. Um, I consider maximum efficiency, and so I guess what it leads me to is this consider this thought texture, this consideration of every bad feeling that you have about it could go away if you just it's just there. I understand it, but
No,
it's
no, no.
like the
No,
two.
you're looking at it wrong. You don't get rid of it. You don't. That's not what the maximum efficiency principle says. So, for instance, like what the maximum efficiency principle means isn't, oh, I'm at work. I'm working. I feel miserable. Oh, I need to listen to quantum physics lectures and grow my brain 50 times and kill my boss. Like, no, that's not what it is. It's like it's just like, okay, I need to. I just want to selfishly experience the best thought texture, and it's like there's a difference between like Jacques? Oh, I think he just left. There's a difference between being at work and thinking I want to complete this work in the most efficient way possible. That sucks. That is a shitty feeling. Whenever you're at work and you're thinking,
Well, that's not necessarily what I mean either. I just mean like all the negative feelings I'm having can be hypothetically replaced with positive feelings. Like just I can feel more enjoyment from it in comparison. And the pre-existing state of unenjoyment is like it's like two bubbles clashing, and like there's some separation between where I cannot pass over
okay, but
from the.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There shouldn't be. And okay. You need to stop looking at it at the max as the maximum efficiency principle. Stop ever saying that in your head anymore. Never again say that. And only say these words: divine selfishness. Only ever say those again, because those are what you need to be thinking of them as. You don't need to be thinking of them as maximum efficiency, because maximum efficiency is indicating like I need to achieve the most maximum efficient route, which is obviously like the indication. But what I mean by maximum efficiency is this. I only mean divine selfishness, which is to say, I want to achieve the best thought texture. Fuck everyone else. Fuck truth. Fuck God. I want the best thought texture. That's all I care about. And whenever you think about this, which is divine selfishness, right? Whenever you are at work and you think about this, work changes instantly from me from like, oh, I need to get these cans on the shelf. Oh, I need to get this. I need to there's 1 can, 2 cans, 3 cans. Instead of thinking like a retard, thinking about each individual can and putting it on the shelf and doing it as fast as possible. Instead, I now only think about enjoying the process of putting the cans on the shelf because I'm only thinking about divine selfishness. I'm only thinking about myself, and I'm only thinking about experiencing the best thought texture. And I'm not thinking about like, oh, what is the most maximum efficient route? What, like, I'm not casting a clairvoyant spell and trying to like, it's trying to like do the old thing where you try and see like, oh, this is God, this is the most efficient path. I'm going to try to run on this algorithm. I'm going to try and like force myself into this algorithm, and the bubbles are going to clash. That's not what this one is. This one is only saying that you should only do things if they are what feels the best. So you should listen to Tim Dillon if Tim Dillon's what feels the best. You should turn off all audio content if that's what feels the best. You know what I mean? You should like work really, really slow if that's what feels the best. Like fuck your bosses, fuck your work. Who cares? What are they gonna do? Fire you? No, they don't have enough workers. They're not gonna be able to do that. You can just slow down. Things like that. It's like it literally just means just enjoy it. Enjoy every moment. Like be divinely selfish, and through that, the most efficient route will arise, and that's only gonna be the most efficient route to taste the best thought texture. Like in other words, like you should only find the maximum efficiency thing you're thinking about. You should only find that route through thinking I want to enjoy this the most, and that route coming out of it. There should never be a clashing of bubbles.
I guess. All right. So if I say instead the divine selfishness thing, I still feel like there's so much momentum or energy that's already in that sense of unenjoyment. It is hard for, I guess, that will of divine selfishness to, I would say, overtake, but I don't know what you're saying that what doesn't do that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Hold on, let me break it. I do. Here's what I'd say. In yours, there's bubble 1, which is Trevor, and then there's bubble 2, which is God. And they're clashing in the present moment. And you're like, this would be the most efficient path, but this is the path that I feel would feel best. And they're clashing against each other. And what you're saying is, well, there needs to be at least some clash because my perspective has to change for the framework to be enabled. And I would say that, yes, there is still a clash, but the clash is more the shift of your bubble from blue to purple, if you see what I mean. It's like it's not shifting your bubble from
Well,
1 to 2.
it's got to be noted that this bubble wants to exist, and it has to like.
That's what I'm saying.
It can't just be passively exterminated.
Are you doing any John Jones?
What is it?
John Jones?
What about him?
What, you didn't get any Pop Johns?
No, you said you didn't care.
I do. How dare you? What are you saying, Trevor?
You said something about John Jones.
We were talking about clashing of bubbles.
Yeah. Right. So the bubble of unenjoyment. It's like it wants to exist, and it's like trying to convince itself that it's superior.
It's in the bag.
Now say it again, Trevor. This big fat retard was talking over you.
Shut up.
Bubble one, the what?
Trevor, this big rotund glob of frameworks was speaking over you. What were you saying?
The bubble one, which is the sense of unenjoyment,
Yeah.
it inherently wants to exist, and it's fighting to exist, and it's
Shut
fighting.
up. What, Trevor?
The bubble one
Sorry,
is fighting to
another
exist.
big fat retard
Trevor,
glob
focus.
is
When are you gonna
I'm not going to. Thank you for your service. What, Trevor? Trevor, I don't know why you're stopping so much, you retard.
Can I speak now?
Yeah, I walked away. Bubble one, bubble two.
Yeah, so bubble one, right? The sense of unenjoyment, I'll say again, is fighting to stay alive, and it's fighting to they're both in the same pool, and it's trying to drown the positive one. And it usually, since it's pre-existing as more momentum, it usually has a sense of dominance.
Here's the difference. What you're imagining right now, there's like two soldiers on the battlefield, right? And there's like one soldier, and he's like, you should do this, and the other one's like, no, I won't. And then they're fighting each other, right? And here's what it should be instead. You should be thinking, I'm putting peanuts on the shelf. And then you should think, why? You should say, well, I need to get paid. And you should think, why? You should think, well, because I want to achieve the best dot texture, and this enables me to do that. Why? And you're just going to continue running down that path. And where before, those whys would have been unanswered, and you would have had to have been like a regular human scrambling to get the peanuts on the shelf in the fastest way because you couldn't focus your thought textures into silencing them. Now, you can instead just instantly run down the Y chain, and the inevitability you'll get to in the end is always going to be, because frameworks are to taste, or because of the divine selfishness, right? Which it's always going to be just to achieve the best thought texture, because everything is frameworks. And once you understand that, and you understand frameworks as the things which shape thought textures, then you understand the act of thinking this thought and the act of my hand moving to put the peanuts on the shelf are each frameworks, and that the way to achieve the best framework is to directly experience them as frameworks. So what I was talking about earlier is framework conversion. What that is it's you understanding things only as themselves. And what that means is you no longer experience things as labels or categories. You only experience something directly as your as how it influences your psychotexture, right? So basically, you're only experiencing it as itself. If you look at a tree, you're no longer thinking of the tree as a tree in the category of tree. You are instead thinking of it as literally that thing in your head, literally the experience of the tree. That's all that tree is its framework, or the experience of it, right? It's psychotexture, the way it influences the whole psychotexture. And so whenever you understand that at work, then you understand that thought, the thought of thinking why, and the act of putting the peanuts on the shelf, all of these are frameworks. Then you understand that there's no longer a fighting. There's no two soldiers fighting. There's not one soldier which is advocating for frameworks and one soldier which is advocating for focusing on the work. There's only the thought process of the initial soldier, or the initial brain, the initial Trevor, which is now running down a dialogue tree which will inevitably lead you to silence. You see what I'm saying?
Right, but the two soldiers aren't one that's wanting efficiency and one that's wanting frameworks. It's just one that the one that suffers and the one that doesn't.
I would say there's the same thing what you said about that.
Because Trevor one does not, the bubble one that is the sense of suffering does not. I don't even know if it cares about efficiency, if it cares about getting the job done at all. It inherently is the suffering of the situation, outside of any context of what I could do about it. And the notion that it could be cured, it doesn't care. So that when that realization hits that, oh, all things are thought textures, I guess it's that feeling is not necessarily intellectually challenging it, because it's not intellectual, it's only experiential. So I guess that intellectual realization that thought textures are to taste needs to be experiential. So I guess what would you recommend to get it to be the most experiential realization as possible.
I think it does sound really gay and useless unless I make like a 2-hour video on it. But it's going to be, you have to explore the core. Or in other words, it will never work if you're thinking about it. It's like any sort of suffering brain and non-suffering brain. It will never be like, it'll never work. It can only, can you repeat last part of what you said?
Which aspect?
Never mind, you're good. Just let me think for a second. I forget the exact wording you used.
How do I make the realization of the thought textures are a taste? How do I make that less in intellectual
That's what I
realization,
meant
more
by like you have to
experiential?
explore the core, because like it can't be like a concept, it can't be a framework that you're like enforcing. It has to inherently come from yourself. Like that's what the maximum efficiency principle or divine selfishness that's why it's the same as the core framework, which is saying like I'm going back through my entire life and I'm asking like why did I do any of these things? Why was it what is Ashton at fundamentally? What at the core, what was he doing? And the answer is always he's trying to achieve the best thought texture. I mean, from day one, that was always what my actions reflect. And whenever you understand that, then you can be in the present moment and you can like I don't know, like when you understand that, then the thought that you're having, there's no fighting it. There's no alternative pathway that you could run down. There is no thing which doesn't care, because the thing which doesn't care is instantly becomes the caring thing. Because like even if you're miserable, like I don't know how to explain it. Okay, so I'll give the depression example. Right, when I was depressed, I decided I don't care if logically I should be depressed. Like logically, I probably should. I'm in school, and school's a massive waste of my time, and I'm on track to become like a job which I hate, and have a family and kids which I'll also hate, in a society where I'll never be able to make enough money to actually achieve my goals, and I feel like I'm destined for greatness, but I'm not actually capable of achieving it in any meaningful way, and I'm now failing in my education because I can't even manage to care about it. It was the one thing which I was like that made me special, was that I was gifted in those capacities, and now even those were falling away, and my life had just become completely meaningless. And I decided that okay, even if logically I should probably be depressed with the situation that I'm in, I decided I don't care. I just won't be. I just won't. I want to experience the best thought texture, and I just won't experience the bad thought texture because it's not what's most efficient for me, and I will choose to experience the best thought texture. And it's like when you stop, whenever I was at work and I was thinking, oh, I need to achieve the best thought texture because it's like the right thing, or I need to achieve the best thought texture because it's what the framework says, or I need to achieve the best thought texture because it's what I should do. All those never worked. It only worked whenever I decided I want to achieve the best thought texture because I want to achieve the best thought texture. I want to do it. Me. I'm going to do it because I want to do it. Like that's the only time it ever works. And then work becomes, it changes from like a slog to like it can still be that slog, but at least I can appreciate that slog. Like the slog itself changes in
So how do you get to that point?
like how do I get to that point? That's just that's it, like that. So that is the 5 steps. That is, you're going to start at the maximum efficiency principle or divine selfishness, which is going to say, I want the best thought texture. Also, here's an interesting way to imagine it. The palm, or the final step, right? The combining step, the one that combines all of the steps, which is framework, start to taste. You can think about that as the exact same thing as step 1, which is divine selfishness. Because if you think about it, divine selfishness, what it's saying is that I want to taste the best frameworks, right? I want to taste the best thought texture, which is the best frameworks. And then what the last thing, where frameworks start to taste, says is frameworks are to taste, you should taste the best thought texture, right? They're saying the same thing. It's just one of them is saying from a human perspective, and the other one is saying it from a perspective of, well, you can't say it from a human perspective because humans are only an arbitrary collection of frameworks in the first place. So that's the difference. And so you can look at it as the first step is also the last step, and it's actually an Ouroboros, or a rectangle squared. So that's kind of sort of an interesting way to look at it. But here's what it means practically. You have the 5 steps, and the 5 steps are, hold on, I'm about to walk through the kitchen. Nope. Hey, Holly, you want me to put that in the air fryer for you to get that heated? But so, framework start to taste is the same thing as maximum efficiency principle. Step 1's from a human perspective, and the other one's from an objective perspective, because it eliminates the human perspective from being possible. And the 5 steps that are between those, right, are going to be, so obviously, start with maximum efficiency principle. Next step is frameworks. Next step is going to have to be understanding that inherently there are only things which shape thought textures. That's it. That's all that exists. The only thing which exists fundamentally is things which shape thought textures. And there's nothing which exists outside of this. You know what I mean? There's no humans, and there's no dogs, and those exist. And it's all frameworks. And frameworks are things that shape thought textures. And trees are frameworks, and rocks are frameworks. And like a rock flying, tumbling down a hill, right? It's just a collection of frameworks. And from this realization, inherently, which is a direct realization of the maximum efficiency principle. So step 1, maximum efficiency principle, or divine selfishness, which is saying, I want the best thought texture. That's step 1.
One moment. Hello, Father. Hi there, I'm just chilling. Just chilling. Ask me. Okay. I'll call you back in a second.
Okay. But so yeah, as far as the work thing goes, you run through all 5 stages of the framework until you get to the final. And here's the big thing, right? Big thing. The big thing that I always forget, everybody always forgets when they run the framework. They forget that there's not 5 steps. It's one big framework, and you run it all at the same time, okay? It's the biggest, it's the greatest framework, and it all runs at the same time. It's a unity, okay? One big step, all right? One big step for mankind. Which is very, very true. It truly, it has to be. You can't run each individual step and be like, oh, well, I've got all 5 steps running, I'm here. Never ever did that ever work in the entire history of frameworks. It has to be 5 concepts which point you towards the greater truth, right? And so the first concept, the maximum efficiency principle or divine selfishness, it's saying, I want the best thought texture. Ash will get the best thought texture if it means heads will fucking roll. I do not care. I will kill other people. I will kill I will mix, and I will do not care. I'll do whatever it takes to get the best thought texture. And then from that, right, from that perspective, you're going to eventually, you're going to get frameworks, and obviously things like society and social contracts and stuff will arise out of that, where it's like, well, I'm not going to, because I wouldn't have wanted to be. You'll get things like that, right, which are obviously going to come out of the concept that frameworks, or step 2, right, that frameworks are things which influence thought textures, and that all that exists are things which influence thought textures, and that you inherently are every other framework, because there's no way to actually divide you from the concept of framework, so that you won't, because you wouldn't want to, you are frameworks and they are frameworks. You are all the same, and you want to maximize the best outcome, right? That's step 2. Step 2, frameworks, just the understanding, and it's super important that you really understand what it means. Because it can't be, right, it can't be, fuck, there's a wrong definition of frameworks I was working with today, I can't remember now, but it was like, obviously, it can't be like ego-centered. Like frameworks can't be like the thing within my mind. That'll never work. You can never do framework 1.0. But I had like a different, more nuanced version in my head running today. That was a problem that I problem solved. I can't remember now, so it doesn't matter. You have to understand. You have to understand frameworks as the path which creates thought textures, the rail which the train runs down, the instrument which plays the music. You need to understand that. Like, there is no free will, there is no individual thing inside of it, there is only frameworks, and the frameworks will lead to the thought texture. Like, there are only the ingredients that make up the food, and the food cannot be what it is without the ingredients, and there is no separation between the food and the ingredients. The food is the ingredients, right? And so, from this perspective, from step 2, so you step 1 is maximum efficiency principle, step 2 is frameworks. From that step, you're then going to go to XZAAYZYX, which says, okay, all right, now, from this new perspective, we're going to look over the old perspectives. We're going to say, XZAAYZYX is what we thought we were, right? We thought at step 1, when we were running the maximum efficiency principle, we thought we were XZAAYZYX. We thought we were a person. That's step 1. From here, through frameworks, you're realizing that XZAAYZYX, right? The step 1 of frameworks is realizing that XZAAYZYX is AZYX. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is realizing that AZYX is XZAAYZYX. Okay, right? That's that right there. That's the final step, right? So what these mean is that you have frameworks, which are going to say that all XZAAYZYX are, or all you are, all a human is a collection of frameworks, right? So XZAAYZYX is the actual fleshing out of frameworks, right? It's the actual fleshing out of what that means, how you are not you, and it's the understanding that you are AZYX, right? And the next step is AZYX, which is like, you're converting one to the next. And then And then the last one is XZAAYZYX. This is the final step. This is whenever you convert AZICS into XZAAYZYX. And this one is where you're going to become framework ooze, or like frameworks are to taste, or you're going to become God, you're going to become pure awareness, you're going to become the thing which is only aware of the frameworks, the thing which optimizes frameworks to achieve the best thought texture from a non-human perspective, right? The thing which is going to get like objective perspectives on frameworks and feel things like, oh, I'm talking to my mother, and this is bizarre because my mother is like a monkey made out of like 14 billion fucking tiny particles, which are all vibrating on the quantum fucking wave field, and like you can truly feel how objectively bizarre each individual situation is from an extremely psychedelic perspective, but it's not from a forced place of like, oh, I'm going to run the like future framework, I'm going to look at the lights and be like, oh man, the caveman could see lights. It's not from like that perspective. It's not even from a perspective of imagining every other possible dimension. It's only from a perspective of reducing yourself back down to such an objective field of saying, well, if I am not me, I am only the thing which experiences, right? You're basically rooting yourself back down to Buddhist awareness, which was going to give you these like objective frameworks that we found from our initial meditation, our initial exploration of Buddhism. We're going to reclaim these old frameworks because by understanding that you are not yourself, which is the natural conclusion of this of step 2 and 3 of frameworks, through understanding this, you're inherently going to start getting these like objective understandings of the frameworks that you experience, right? And then step 3 is like the actual final conclusion. Like XZAAYZYX is going to be the actual final conclusion of this, where you experience everything as only the awareness and like the will to taste as the like maximization of the framework. It's like the Optimus Prime framework, right? Where you are only the optimization. You are only the thing which is optimizing the framework into the best possible pattern. There is no more Trevor. There's no more Ashton. There's only the will to taste, which runs down the path of least resistance, right? And you are the most efficient path of least resistance. That's what Ashton becomes. And so like what that actually practically means for work. And then and then all of that gets folded back up into frameworks are to taste, which says that what frameworks are to taste says is frameworks are to taste is saying that none of these things individually are real, and you don't run through them, and none of these things are like individual steps. You're not running them all at the same time. Frameworks are to taste is the conclusion of all of it, right? Frameworks are to taste is the end. Frameworks are to taste is the fist, right? If you think about the 5 fingers, frameworks are to taste isn't just like the palm. It's not a separate thing. It's not step 6. Frameworks are to taste is the curled up fist, which is punching you in the face, right? Frameworks are to taste is the fist of God, right? So you have hand of God, which is the individual steps, and you have fist of God, which is the thing which is punching you in the face. And fist of God is frameworks are to taste, and frameworks are to taste is basically saying all of that. All of that is included because frameworks are to taste is the natural conclusion of that. If you want to taste the best thought texture, and through the conclusion of wanting to taste the best thought texture, you realize that you experience things that are completely outside of your control, and then you realize that everything you experience is completely outside of your control and only an arbitrary collection of other factors, and then you call those things frameworks, and you realize that those are the things which shapes the feelings which you experience. Then you come to the conclusion that you are inherently every other thing because there's no way to actually divide yourself from them, which is ZIX, and AZIX, right? You'll understand yourself and yourself in relation to the AZIX, which is the frameworks. And then finally, you'll understand XZAAYZYX, which is understanding not just that you don't exist, but that inherently you do exist as something else than what you originally thought. You do exist as the energy which runs on the path. You do exist as the optimization, and the final conclusion of that is frameworks are to taste, which is from the bottom to the top, all the way from, you know what I mean, all the way from the very top of metaphysics, as much as it exists, which it doesn't. You shouldn't believe in any other capacity other than to be efficient, which starts through the maximum efficiency principle, all the way from the bottom to the top. You're understanding that frameworks are to taste, right? Even if you're thinking about it from God's perspective, from the fully objective perspective, from the silent perspective, where everything folds back up into one. From this perspective, frameworks are to taste. That is true. And if you're looking at it from the human perspective, then obviously frameworks are to taste. And this is true. And all the way in between anywhere in these 5 steps, anywhere from the beginning to the end of reality, frameworks are to taste are always going to be the answer to the question. So like back when I created an ego is to taste, right? I had the concept of like I'm always asking why. My brain's always asking why. It's always shutting away. It's always asking, why is this? Why is that? And I'm trying to do it to get to the bottom of everything and trying to help humanity, right? Because at the end of these questions is the plague of humanity. And my brain is always chatting. It never shuts up. When I'm on sub 1, that's all I want. I want it to shut the fuck up so I can actually focus on my experience. We talked about this, right? There's the You Betcha fractal and other things like that and these concepts. And it's just like, just shut the fuck up and focus on the experience was the thing that kept getting pushed through in all our sub 1 experiences. And this one really capitalizes on that concept because whenever you understand, I completely forgot where I was going with that. I'll try and find into something here. I completely forgot where that train was running. But when you understand everything as frameworks, when you understand that everything is frameworks are to taste, then everything becomes each other, and like everything becomes silent. Like when you truly understand frameworks are to taste, when you truly understand all 5 steps, yeah, I completely fucking train completely derailed, which really sucks. It was a good fucking monologue up to that point, and I know it was going somewhere very particular. I was setting all that up as the setup to the finisher. Dog shit.
But ultimately, yeah, the fist of God. Yeah, I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, where yeah, there you go. That's what I was saying. It really capitalizes on that concept of shut the fuck up and just experience it. Because the question why, right? So that's that. Yeah, there we go. So like the question why was repeatedly asked on sub one, and repeatedly I just wanted to be like, please just shut up, just please no more asking why, please no more thrashing, right? No more gnashing. I don't want to move anymore. I don't want to think anymore. I don't want to do anymore. I just want to sit still. I want the cessation of this desire, right? And so through that experience, I found an ego as a taste, which was basically saying, okay, when a tree, basically, I wanted to find the answer to the question, why does a leaf fall off a tree? If I could understand that, then I could understand everything and I could be one with reality. And then the answer was, an ego is to taste. And what that meant is basically that I can see now more clearly what it meant. What I understood that it meant then was just that, right, everything happens to be tasted, right? You happen to be tasted. And like what that meant at the time was it was very humbling. It meant that like it didn't mean that you were God. It meant that like you were something that were meant to be tasted. You were the food of God. Like you were to be smashed up in the teeth of God. And like God would crumble you up if it could get interesting thought texture. He would crumble you up like a piece of paper. He would tear you apart like a fucking juicy steak. And essentially that's what it was saying. It was saying that like everything, including the ego, including yourself, everything you experience within your ego, it's all just a taste. It's all for God to chew apart. And where I understand it more now with frameworks are to taste. And now the question to every single why you possibly have: why am I putting these peanuts on the shelf? Why am I saying this to my boss? Why am I speaking this way to my mother? Why am I fucking vacuuming my floor? Why am I working this job? Every single possible question can always be answered with frameworks are to taste. And whenever you do answer every question with that answer, you get silence because you understand everything as it is, and you understand everything only as its framework, which means you understand everything only as a lever to achieve a better thought texture. Nothing exists independently, nothing exists in its own category, nothing exists separate from you. Everything only exists as another lever to achieve the best thought texture, and you are just that process unfolding. My fucking brain hurts, man. I went up for like 16 hours. I got so fucking cooked today. These things are called heavyweight haymakers. And holy shit, we got fucking uppercutted by Francis Ngannou, man. But this friend
Is that what their like class weight is called, or
yeah,
their class, or like what it's
literally yes,
labeled on the box?
yes. The heavyweight haymaker class is the double, like the fucking double 4 grams. Yeah. But yeah,
What were the ones that we had called?
they were called Phantom blends.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it based on the phantom weight?
No, that's bantamweight. Actually,
That's true. That's true. I just realized that.
I think there actually is a phantom weight in other like promotions, funnily enough, and like Muay Thai and stuff. I think. But
Interesting.
yeah, they were. I think they're just called that because they were black. um, but
I see.
my fucking brain hurts really bad right now, and I've been up for like fucking 12 hours already, and went to the
You're about to
doctor.
go do a shift.
Yeah, went to the doctor, went to work, or went to the doctor, went to the bank to claim. Oh, somebody hacked into my credit card and stole fucking $700 from me.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm gonna get it all back because my bank's gonna refund it. But still, that did happen. And so I went to a fucking doctor, went to the chiropractor, got my back cracked, went to fucking the bank, filed a statement, came home, rode my bike, got multiple hours in, got music in, haven't slept, got cooked off of 2 new ones, got really baked off of each one, 2 different strains. And so like my brain is in like major hurt. It's like I said, it's been like fucking uppercutted by these heavyweight haymakers, uppercutted by Francis Ngannou, and still I'm capable of delivering these like mid like 7, 8 out of 10 speeches. Like think about it. Over the past couple months, these speeches would have been like 10 out of 10s. Now they're like fucking measly little things which I can spit out. Even my brain has fucking been smashed in by a hammer, like fucking Nancy Pelosi's husband. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Impressive.
It's crazy. This with a little bit of editing, like Gerbert Johnson does, where he fucking has the bees going behind him and all the fucking hue shading, all color changing all the time. God, I can't wait. I mean, good stuff.
What YouTuber are you talking about?
Gerbert Johnson. Have you watched his videos?
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, check him out like right now because his videos are only 10 minutes long. Just put them at 2 times speed and watch them. They're very entertaining. He's very funny, like very very funny. He's like a drag where he's making educational content
but he's doing it in a way that's unbelievably funny, and then the editing makes it even funnier, where he'll just do these like weird editing tricks that make it so fascinating to look at. Even though there's not enough substance. He's not doing it for a reason. Like I said, he'll just put like bees on the screen, and you'll just hear the bees, and then he'll just be like changing the hue like of everything. So he'll just be purple, and then he'll be green. I mean, like he'll just fuck with things. It's fun. I like it. Like old internet, you know what I mean? Where people just fuck with things.
Yeah, I think I've seen some of his videos, but yeah, his. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, his style is definitely something that needs to be replicated because it's something that's like very understandable for the modern audience.
Yeah. Oh, you're not going to work tonight. Tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
We'll
Well,
do that.
on that note, I got to work tonight, so see you, brother.
Good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah.